another name of life is water. So without fresh water, people suffer a lot. When we go to those villages, we can see like how sad they are. So mangrove is like a barrier. It protects the surrounding area after mangrove from the typhoons. If you really can't change the perspective, you can't really save the environment. We all should have our own voice rather than just doing what has been done for centuries.
Hello, everybody. My name is Graf Innocent Phiri, and welcome to our Resilience Track podcast, the podcast that is looking at the people that are doing the conservation work. So today we have our guest, Rabita Rahman. I hope I've pronounced your name properly. And let me just give you an opportunity to begin with. Make sure that you introduce yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having this in this podcast. My name is Rabita Rahman, and I am currently an environmental science student. I have always been deeply passionate about environmental science, saving the environment, especially for our generation, because like the more time is going, the more the world is becoming, like sort of a dangerous place for the new generation. So this is a one way of thinking. Another thing that changed my perspective was my journey of Rover Scout. So on that, I went on a trip to Sundarbans, which is a mangrove forest, which is like the largest mangrove forest of Bangladesh. And I think it's like also for the world, and it's very diverse. Like if you have been here, you can understand how diverse it is. Bangladesh being a small country, we also have so many diversity, especially because it was a formation of a lot of rivers like the Ganges and the Meghna River and also the Brahmaputra. So all of this made this our topography a very different place. This is also a reason of me starting an environmental science journey. Currently, for my conservation part, I am working on some agencies like CYMG. I'm an active member over there. And also, I am doing an internship. I'm basically a thesis under CNRS, which is Center of Nature Resource Society in Bangladesh.
What mainly led to you starting working on the south coast Bangladesh?
Currently, I am, as I said, working on my thesis over a project that was being funded by CNRS, and it was also a collaboration with the Embassy of Sweden. For our project, what was our intention is that people of the South Coast are suffering from a lot of salinity problems, and the water salinity level over there is very bad. That's why we are working to resolve it by planting mangrove because mangrove has a unique power of absorbing salinity. And that's like a very diverse thing I feel for your countries. Like, do you guys have anything like mangrove?
Like I haven't seen mangroves on the part of Africa where I am because mainly we are in the land-linked country or land-locked country. But I've just
Yeah.
been hearing people talking about mangroves. I'm just always hoping to know more about mangroves and what they are really helping in the environment.
Yeah, so it's like a unique plant that can absorb the salinity level. Especially, there's like a lot of cyclone happening in the south coast of Bangladesh because this is near the Bay of Bengal, and cyclones can also increase the salinity level of water bodies staying on that region. That's why I am like working on that part currently, and also there's like a lot of wildlife over there, and especially the Royal Bengal tiger, the heritage of Bangladesh.
If we can like now go deeper, maybe we talk about the environmental issues in your region. For our listeners who may not know, what are the major environmental challenges that the South Coast or is currently facing?
Basically, I have always been a city girl. I live in the central part of Bangladesh, Dhaka, and I have been here my whole life. So honestly, before starting my journey as an environmental science student, I had no idea what was happening in numbers or in like qualitative data. I didn't had any idea. Then when I started going on field trips, so there's like a beach right near the south coast called the Kuakata beach. So over there, like me and my friends went there to see the sunrise, and it was around 4 a.m. and we noticed that in the silence there was so much beauty. Especially we were traveling under the stars, like there's full of stars on that region because there's no air pollution. And
Yeah.
I think you guys have also known that Dhaka is currently not having a good air quality. It's known for not having a good quality, but it's so
Yeah.
strange that especially like in an entire country one region can have such a different air quality and another has so much different quality. So yeah, that is also one thing that most people don't know about. And also over there, like the aquatic life is not doing well because the farmers over there don't really have a communication. There's not enough decentralization. That's another problem that many people don't focus on.
Hmm.
So we don't really have that blue economy that we should have had because we live in the Bay of Bengal. So that's another problem for the South Coast part.
When we talk about now specifically, how is the salinity intrusion and also water loss affecting these local ecosystems, and also mainly we talk about the communities, because as we mainly talk about maybe the ecosystem, most of the time we tend to like miss it and also remove the communities, which is like the humans that are just in that particular area. How are these people being affected by the salinity intrusion?
Yes, there's like a lot of problems. Especially females have a lot of problem with hygiene issues and other issues because salinity water has a different pH comparatively to the normal water, and also like even if you boil it, it's not pure enough. So that's a problem. And fresh water is required for agriculture and other cooking activities. So without fresh water, people suffer a lot. When we go to those villages to take surveys, and we can see like how sad they are, how much they are suffering. And it's kind of sad to see like that. Like last semester I went on a environmental impact assessment course near Khulna, which is like close to south coastal area. So we were like, yeah, how are you guys coping up with all of this? And they're like, okay, yeah, we have trust on God. Like basically there's one thing I have realized, that they are very spiritual persons. That's what I think they're coping up with their spirituality. Like people coming like me from city, this was so eye-opening for me.
That is very true. Like I think it is everywhere. It is everywhere. At the end of the day, people just think maybe God is trying to punish them, or maybe or what. But at the end of the day, you find that these are the things that we humans are harming ourselves, and also maybe harming the environment that we are living in. Do you think climate change contributes to this, or to make this challenge of serenity worse?
Yeah, because climate change is predominantly contributing to the rise of water level. I mean the sea level. So that's like a main problem, especially since my country is located near the Bay of Bengal. So if the sea level rise, it's going to be a lot of problematic situation for us. I am doing a course under United Nations of International Training Research, UNITAR. So over there, I've learned a new term called climate migrants. Because of climate change, most of the people living in the south coast are migrating to the north side,
Yeah.
which like, causing a lot of problems. Even they're disrupting their livelihood and also having a lot of economical problem, all of this. So yeah, climate change is definitely a factor, especially for new islands that are being, like most of the islands did not really existed back in the 90s. A lot of islands are getting recognized right now. So if the sea level rise, that's going to be a very big problem. Like I think in this COP30, a lot of people talked about these parts, especially for the small island which are newly recognized. Yeah.
When you talk about the sea levels rising, right? Are they like visual way where you can just see like, okay, maybe the sea levels have risen, maybe we had a lot of some floods, maybe in the city now you were expecting, you have seen maybe the things that were not happening in the past, or maybe the water is just everywhere, and even even having like good drainage. Are you facing those kind of particular things?
It's currently like if place gets embanked, then most of the people living on that region moves another side. So that always disrupt their livelihood. You know, people who used to go to a school has to change schools, and also there's not enough healthcare service. Like if they get injured, they don't really have a medical place to go to. And even if they migrate to another region, they have to like take into account that that region is not theirs, and the economy, you know, like the funding, how are they supposed to get the money to move to another place? This is like all pretty complicating, especially for working class people living, because in the coast side the average annual income is very different for the people living in the central part. So they really have a lot of problem coming to the central, I mean the cities. So that's like a big problem.
When anything, any disaster, when just comes with migrating to another region, is it is always stressful to people that have just done the immigration. So I remember when we talked some other day, you talked about, is it Sundarbans? Can you tell us more about that?
So Sundarban, you know, Sundar is like a Bengali word that means beautiful, and Bon means forest. So we call this basically like the translation of Sundarban starts with beautiful forest,
Mm-hmm.
because in that region there's like so much diverse plantations, and also the wildlife is so amazing. You can see deers, you can see dolphins, and you can see a very cute creature called otter. I don't know, have you seen that? Have you, do you know otters?
Otters, otter,
It's like
not really.
it's like squirrel and cat mixture. Like they're very cute. People over there use it for fishing, and the most famous, infamous Royal Bengal tiger. So yeah, the wildlife over there is very diverse. We also have so many other things over there, and especially fishes. You know, Bangladesh is a place for river. We have a variety of fish. We don't really highlight our wildlife that much. We just highlight the part of Royal Bengal tiger. But apart from Royal Bengal tiger, there's like a lot of other creatures living there. And yeah, the entire ecosystem is a bit different. I mean, the water is like green over there, and it's different.
So, can you at least explain how your projects linked into is linking mainly into the mangroves ecosystem there?
Yeah, so basically, like the project is making small strips of mangrove plants that has a lot of other varieties of plants. Like I'm not explaining it in complicating words.
Mhm.
Like in simple words, there's like a strip, and over there, there's another type of small strips that can boost the growth of mangrove in like surrounding areas of Sundarban that doesn't have mangrove, naturally mangrove. So these are like man-made mangrove. So people use those things to balance the salinity level. It's like works like magic for most of the people, and we have been monitoring this for like 12 months, and the results are good actually. And also we are focusing on the water aquatic sanctuaries, because water, like clean water, is also very essential for people over there. Without fresh water, people can't really focus on the agricultural growth or any other growth, and also fishing, like pe- and also the temperature rise. You know, if the salinity level is more, the temperature rise is also more. Like after 25 degrees, especially Bangladesh is also located in the, you know, southern part, so it's hot, pretty much hot in summer. If the temperature rises above 25 degrees Celsius, then most of the aquatic creature can really survive over there. And there's also other problems like mosquitoes and other insects related problem. The most warmer the place is, there's more mosquitoes. So yeah, like all of this, we are taking the other surrounding parts into accounts as well for the projects conducted by CNRS.
Yeah, you talked about mosquitoes. Oh my God! Even here, like we have a lot of mosquitoes. Any place that I like is having a lot of water and swamps, um, lake. Oh my God! It has been crazy for me because I've been getting malaria like twice, like in a month, and yeah. So if now, if I can just ask you a specific question, like, okay, why, why are they, why are they? Sundars and their mangroves so crucial for the climate resilience or mainly the biodiversity?
Yeah. So the mangrove is like a barrier. It helps, like, for an example, due to the climate change, we are facing a lot of cyclones and typhoons recently. I think you have seen in news, even in Philippines or Vietnam, we are facing a lot of things. So mangrove is like a barrier. It protects the surrounding area after mangrove from the typhoons. So yeah, it's also important for those big natural disaster that's being triggered by climate change. So I feel like this is pretty much an important thing to talk about, especially from a country like Bangladesh.
So, going to that, if we talk about mangroves, we talk about the beauty forest, which is Sundarbans. Yeah, Sundarbans, right? Yeah, which means there are also other wildlife, which means mainly we are talking about the aquatic species or wildlife population, which are mostly impacted by the environmental challenges in your area. So, what are those? Do you have mainly the specific animals or species or aquatic animals that you can say that they are mainly being affected with the environmental challenges on your end?
So for climate change is actually like disrupting a lot of stuff. Like if one animal, if something happens to one animal, the entire food chain might suffer a lot. Like, that's like a big problem.
Are there any conservation measures currently being implemented to protect these species that are mainly affected?
The Department of Environment in Bangladesh are currently working on creating a lot of policies and laws because laws are very important. But the enforcement is not really that strong, so that's creating like a problem for the conservation thing. But we have like a lot of and policies to protect the environment and forest, but we don't really like have the good enforcement. That's like a big problem. And yeah, Bangladesh is also taking a lot of projects to preserve their forest because we have like a variety of things, especially Bangladesh being located in the low deltas. Our geography is kind of different. So we do get a lot of funds from other countries as well. And we are working on protecting the making conservation projects. Yeah.
Have you had much on? Have you been mainly focusing much on the part of maybe community engagement and or mainly looking at much on the livelihood in terms of conservation?
We are not really focusing on conservation yet. We are mostly focusing on the community-based initiative and mitigating. So most people like get confused about the mitigation and adaptation difference. People like think that adapting is like all the main thing, but they don't really focus on the future. Like mitigation is something that you do with a lot of plans, and adaptation is something that you are doing currently to like work on the scenario. If something happened, you are just, this is like the current scenario. So in Bangladesh we mainly focus on adaptation rather than mitigation. So the project that I'm working on is focusing on mitigation, like taking future initiatives. So that's like the main different part of the project.
Can you share any successive stories or positive outcomes for from the work you have been involved in?
So, I'm quite young, so I really didn't had the opportunity of seeing some successful project yet. But let me tell you one story. So, basically, in Bangladesh, there was a plan called the flood action plan. We This is like for the north region. So a company wanted to create a project, an initiative that was about to disrupt the conservation, the biology, ecological system over there. So a guy like made a case on the high court, and the case was successful and the project was stopped and saving the biodiversity over there. So like that, yeah, sometimes our laws are also very useful. That guy used the no harm principle that was a Kyoto protocol in Rio declaration. So we used that protocol for the environmental conservation. This was basically our first environmental act in Bangladesh that started. And yeah, that created the stop the banishment of the biodiversity creature over there and helped conservation community.
Wow. 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 That is like a very big thing. You're saying I young, but I see, you still have a lot of knowledge. That is a success story. That is, in fact, the story that can motivate many people that don't, that think that maybe speaking out as an individual when things don't seem to be in the right path in terms of maybe they want to defend their their wildlife space or their environment, especially when we talk about the indigenous people. Most of the time, people will say, I can't because I'm just a road. I can't do anything about this. Maybe the government, maybe the company is having a lot of money, but at the end of the day, when you make a case and you push for what is good for for our environment, at the end of the day, how are the local communities being affected, and also by increasing of salinity, and also what kind of solutions that have you been looking at in terms of mitigate.
Another name of life is water. So we really focus on the water part, especially. There's like a lot of tube oils that takes groundwater, but groundwater sometimes can be arsenic. So that's why we sometimes give away a lot of filters to the people living on those areas to help them deal with salinity. Especially during floods, there's not enough drinkable water for them, so we give them like a kit that consists of some chemical that you can use to make the water pure, and also there's like a filter for that. So during disaster we have that type of options. And also like how salinity affects a lot of way. Like I said, females are more vulnerable because when the salinity level is high, most people who, especially girls who are pregnant, suffer from miscarriages because the salinity level are also high. And during childbirth, most people can also die because of that, because the salinity level can, like biologically that increases the pH of pregnant women, and during childbirth like there's a high risk of the mother and the child death. So that's like pretty sad for people living on that area, because we really don't have enough opportunities to help them with this, because geographically they're not in a like good area. And even though we use chemical tabs, but there's not enough fresh water yet. So yeah, that's like a problem.
Thank you very much, Rabita. Now we have reached on one of our favorite segments. Mainly, we call it the segment where you talk about something that you believe in, especially on part of the environmental conservation.
Yeah, so I think that we also need to focus on our economy rather than environment, because Bangladesh is like a developing country. We can't really focus only on environment. Like most of the time, people just think about sustainability, but they don't really focus on thinking that in order to achieve sustainability, we need to educate people, because if we don't have enough educated people, we can't really work on the environment. Because I don't know, like in your region, but in my region, most people don't really throw like waste properly. So yeah, education is also very important. So instead of educating them, if we teach them, like host seminars and workshops, like green plant green trees and this, I think they are not really going to listen. They're just going to see this as like a boring seminar. Yeah, I think that's like a important concept. Like last 4 months ago, I went to Nepal for a international climate camp. So over there, I noticed that most people over there are very, like, they have a connection with nature. They take nature very seriously, unlike some people in my country. So yeah, it's mainly about perspective. If you really can't change the perspective, you can't really save the environment. And most people think that this is something to force on. This is not really something to make people like force, like you're forced to do this, you're forced to do that.
Yeah.
If people don't really think, yeah, that's the problem. I feel like, especially with like the generation before me, they really just want to force stuff on us rather than like letting us make our own decision. That's why we do things against that. And I feel like because I'm like the youngest child in my family, so I have faced that a lot. Like taking other people's like advices, we have to listen to them. Like I feel like we all should have our own voice. We should really talk about ourselves as well, rather than just doing what has been done for centuries.
What advice would you give to young conservationists who wants to work in the climate or ecosystem restoration?
Even though like most people think that we are not doing enough, small acts are also enough. If you like feed a street dog or a street cat, that's also something that you are contributing to your environment. And yeah, even smallest act matter. You don't really have to start with something big. You can start with something small and then keep on going. Like opportunities will come hopefully, because currently we are in a scenario where we need as much people as possible, and younger people are like we are the victims over here most of the time, because if something happens we have to suffer, not the generation before us. So yeah, we should work even though we basically don't really have any option over here. We have to work to protect the environment.
Great. How can our listeners support or learn more about the conservation work happening on the south coast and also Sundarbans? So Sundarbans, as you just said, it is the beauty forest. Yeah. So how can our listeners support and or maybe learn more about that?
So there's like a lot of projects you can find on Google. And also for my National Geographic Society and TNC, the Nature Conservation Externship, I made a story map. So you can visit and see that story map if you want to learn more about Sundarban. I have worked on the wildlife over there and also the conservation things. So if you really want to learn more, you can simply visit that. And apart from me, there were other externs as well working on that story map. Like I my teacher's assistant during the externship worked on Sundarbans as well for his internship back in that time, but he focused on the India region rather than Bangladesh. So yeah, so it's not just about Bangladesh. There's mangrove. There's a part of Sundarban in India as well, and most people get confused on that. But we have like the majority part of Sundarbans.
Thank you very much. And not I, we are very happy to have you in this podcast. And can you just help us on how maybe people can reach out to you and also how they can find you in your socials? It can be either LinkedIn, maybe Instagram, or maybe if you're using Facebook, how can they find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me on LinkedIn or in Insta and in Facebook too. I have three of them. And mainly, you guys can knock me on LinkedIn if you really want to know more about the conservation and things happening in Bangladesh. Because I post over there most of the time about the environmental stuff.
So thank you very much. It was great having a conversation with you. Once again,
Thank you for
my name is
having me.
Graf Innocent Phiri, your host here, and we had our guest here, Rabita Rahman. I hope you have learned a lot from Rabita, from Bangladesh, and we are here to share the conservation journey, share the conservation work, and what other young people are doing out there in the world. Thank you very much.